What's up, everyone? Nick and I are back for another Who Are They Real Talk. Once again, I am Matt, and as I just said one moment ago, this is the one and only Nick Molbach.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, Matt's back this week. Very excited to have you here this week for our interview. No news today, just like last week. I don't know if anybody was really that affected by it, but I didn't really have anything queued up in order to talk about. And it probably would have just been me talking about it either way. You don't want to do that. So, but today we're really excited to have an actor, not only in the just kind of everywhere when it comes to his acting, Mr. James Quinn.
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing well, sir. How about yourself?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So your experience every single week, I feel like we have something interesting about your acting experience when it comes to, where you've been, where you do things out of. Last week, it was more an actress who went to California. This week, you're out of Pittsburgh. Am I correct?
You are correct. Yes, I am. That's
so that definitely sheds a different light on just the film community in general out there. Obviously, we are out of Cleveland ourselves, but at the same time, going through your IMDb, you have done so many different projects. I see Dark Knight Rises is one of the top projects, but you've also done a little bit of independent stuff. So it's really interesting to bring just this diverse group of talent on when it comes to these podcasts. So we always like to start off with tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into acting.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we've stated, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where I still live. It's where I'm from. I got into acting actually as a kid. I started doing some theater work, like in middle school and grade school. Then I got into doing commercials and some background work on projects in high school and a little bit after. And so it was kind of like it was a lot of fun for me early on because I just liked being creative and I like getting out there and telling stories and writing stories, man. I've always loved writing as well. But I didn't really know where to take those waters way back then, And so I got away from the business for a long period of time, did a lot of other things, and then came back a little more than a decade ago and just really have a passion and desire now. I got back doing background, taking workshops. I discovered a great love for independent film. I found that that's where you can really cut your teeth in this industry and show what you can do. And so I just started attacking auditions like it was drinking water, and it's just become a real big addiction, man. And I love it. I just haven't looked back since.
Can't blame you for that. I mean, the world of film is just addicting in itself, especially for being an actor, because you get to play make believe and pretend you're someone else and just have a good time with it.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely, man. And I know Cleveland, much like Pittsburgh, because I've worked in Cleveland quite a few times, man, our film communities are growing every year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you talk about the audition process. Obviously, it's been so different lately. And when we bring our actor friends onto here, we always kind of like to gauge how the online and video audition process has changed with the world that we're living in right now, and how you've sort of adapted to that.
Yeah, and that's I'd say that's about 90% or better of our auditions right now are. I actually did one in person for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and then one the other day. But for the past year, it's been primarily online. In one case, it saves us a lot of travel time. You're definitely saving a lot of gas going across the country, or even going from one state to the next, or even an hour down the road. But I myself, I love being there in person. I feel that I can sell myself better face to face. But I've adapted to the video, and it's not much different than being on film, and you have to look at it as making a small movie for somewhere that you want to be, and you got to make sure your lighting's real good and that your delivery's well, and you just got to be the best representation of yourself. So it's actually forcing us as actors to up our game so that we make sure that these videos are the best representation of us now.
Yeah, we had a guest a couple weeks ago, Winston Marshall. He's a friend of mine. He was telling me that these audition tapes, if anything, have actually done exactly what you just said, force you to push your game, because you're like, hold up, I have the opportunity to put my best foot forward, and that's what they're going to see, because that's what I get to send in.
About 100%, absolutely. And I think it's actually making us stronger as creatives right now. I mean, you're forced to be, but that's a good thing.
Yeah, and has this time, I guess at first it was away from acting, but I could imagine that things are starting to pick back up. Has that allowed you to be able to hone your craft and just, make things a little bit better for yourself overall?
I really think so. I was talking about that the other day with some friends. I was talking about it last night on set. We're working on a feature film outside of Pittsburgh near Wheeling, West Virginia right now. I think for us, we were in the middle of a feature film when this all started with COVID, back in early spring last year. And so that put us on the shelf for 4, almost 5 months where we could do absolutely nothing right in the middle of the film. And so, but the thing for me that worked out is we were able to go back and hit the reset button. We were able to breathe, relax, study our craft a little bit because you were stuck at home, and think about the projects that we did sign on to when this all happened that we were still going to move on to. And I think that's actually given us time to get more creative and to put our best foot forward with these projects. I think they actually are looking better now than they may have would have if we had continued rushing through the process.
And that's always great to hear, because I always kind of like to see how the creative types in this time have been able to use this time in order to get better, or how we've used this time in order to be able to write more, or try something new when it comes to certain abilities and such. So when you look at your IMDb, you have a lot of Hollywood credits or bigger project credits, and you have a lot of independent credits. If you want to run us through a little bit of them, past experiences, which ones have been your favorite, and which one do you like more when it comes to? You said you found a new respect for the independent type of film. How does that juxtapose when it comes to a bigger budget film?
It's there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of pros and cons to both. Obviously, we don't have the budgets in independent film that Hollywood does, but that doesn't mean that our work can't look just as good. And I think if the stories are right and you have strong actors and your cinematography is solid and the sound is a big deal, if you stay on all the little things, lighting, color correction, and you get to tell your story in a very creative way, I think people really love that. And listen, with streaming over the past 8 or 9 years, the way it has just grown leaps and bounds, I say it every day, it's really leveled the playing field for the independent artist climbing the ladder to where now we can be seen by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. We're seen outside of the country now. And so it really gives us a stage that we didn't have a decade ago or so. And so the goal was obviously to get, to Hollywood. Everybody wants to be in Hollywood. That's the dance. It's like I compare it to a pro wrestling analogy. Everybody, wants to go to the WWE, right? But you climb the ladder on the independents, and those guys are doing the same thing that we're doing as actors, the same thing that musicians are doing and comedians are doing. You're honing your craft, and we've all found a way to really showcase our work now. I think it's awesome.
No, I think that's the biggest thing, and you're starting to see independent streaming apps pop up themselves. So even those independent films that may not make a Netflix or Hulu or any of that still have a chance to have life past an initial release.
Oh, for sure. And we've had a couple drop this past couple of months. One just 2 weeks ago, and so again, The Boonies is a quality horror film that people are really paying attention to, that came out 2 weeks ago. Lionsgate's attached their name to us. And so we premiered at a theater in LA, and then we came back to Pittsburgh and Johnstown and sold out the theaters there. It was in the paper. And, we had a blast doing it, man. It's not every day you get that kind of recognition, but that really made us feel good. We knew that we went that extra mile.
And you talk about the theater experience. It's a question that I have posed a lot lately to the guests that we bring on. The theater experience has always been a dream of mine as a filmmaker. It's just like, oh my gosh, we get to take, Matt and I, on a smaller scale, debuted our Star Wars fan film in front of a crowd. And it's always just such an incredible feeling to be able to showcase a project to people. And streaming has become such a big deal when it comes down to it, even for the idea of Blu-rays and DVDs. Do you like the direction that it's going? I can only imagine, as a talent yourself, that it's creating more opportunities for you. But I know the feeling of showing it at a theater, it isn't going to go away, obviously, but we're obviously going in this different direction.
Yeah, there's there's pros and cons to both. I just have always grown up a fan of being in the movie theater, man. There's no feeling in the world like going to the theater and watching not only your work, but a Hollywood project that you love, like Star Wars, and just going to sit down and watching it in the theater with your family, man. It's an experience that you can't explain. But also, streaming, what it's doing too is is giving everybody an opportunity to see your work that they couldn't see it before, man. So I have no problem with both. We're even getting, you get reviews now too, the way the Hollywood actors do, and you take a lot of criticism. And I tell people every day, we don't pay attention to it because we're just out there putting our best foot forward. But thank God they're talking about us because they're making us relevant, whether they like our work or not.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's something I've come to appreciate, especially about the indie scene, the hard work people get it put in, especially there's an independent, and this person's actually coming back on the channel this upcoming Thursday for Really Scared, but there's an independent horror film called 1BR. You can watch it right now on Netflix.
Okay.
And the channel as a whole kind of became close with the producer of that film, and just him, he runs the Twitter account. If you follow them, they try to follow you back. They pump the promotion of the movie nonstop, and all this hard work, and they share every review they possibly can. Just even if it doesn't matter if it's the smallest outlet, they share it just because that is kind of important to get other people to pay attention.
Traffic is huge, man. Social media is another thing. And that's why I'm so glad I came back to the business when I did, because we didn't have Twitter and Instagram and these other outlets that you can really go on to promote your work. And I think it's great that they're sharing that because it puts more eyes on your work. We love to do the same thing. I do it all the time. Twitter is one of my favorite outlets. I meet a lot of people through Twitter. I support a lot of their work, and they do mine as well. I think it's what you just said is it's huge, and it puts eyeballs on your work that may have not otherwise seen it, and it's great to see that support.
Absolutely. And so something that will catch a lot of our viewers, or a lot of our viewers are really into the comic book genre and such. So I'm sure that a lot of people who were watching, when they heard the words Dark Knight Rises come out of my mouth, were incredibly intrigued to hear about, what your experience was when it comes to that set as such a big movie. And, again, I'm sure that it has to contrast from the independent film experience of things, but at the same time, like you said, there's a lot of similarities. So what was it like being on a bigger set like that?
It was probably the biggest set I've ever been on. The budget was incredible. Obviously, they completely transformed the city of Pittsburgh, downtown Pittsburgh, the Oakland area, North Side, into Gotham City, and that's what it looked like for 3 months. I mean, and just to stand there in the middle of Gotham City, it was the most surreal feeling I've ever had. It's never. I say it all the time. It's not the biggest role I've ever had, but it's definitely one of the biggest experiences, and it's most definitely the biggest set. I got to do fight choreography. We were there for the prison breakout when all the riots took place, when Batman was fighting in the streets. And so it was just to be able to see that, interacting with Tom Hardy and Anne Hathaway. It was one of the most surreal times of my life, man, because I'm a huge Batman fan. And so just to be able to walk into Gotham City just for those couple of days was really cool.
And funny enough, I was actually in town at a journalism workshop while that was filming. I remember I actually did a story on it, and it ended up being one of the front page pieces. And I went to go visit. I don't know if you were there for when they filmed outside of Carnegie Mellon.
Yes. Yeah.
So I went to go visit there like a couple days after it was all over the paper that they filmed at Carnegie Mellon, and you could still see like the fake snow strewn on the street and all this. I was just like, okay.
Yep.
And I remember the day I was leaving was the day they were filming the Heinz Field scene.
Okay. Oh, that was huge.
And we all had an opportunity to be in it, but because I was one of the people from out of state, my mom's like, no, we're going on. No.
Yeah, it was. I had a lot of friends that worked on that scene, man. They said it was a blast, but it was a packed house. Where you said with the snow, I was there. That's when they brought all the Batmobiles lined up one at a time, the tumblers, I guess. And I was there when that fake snow was producing, and it was just really cool to see it. Because it was anything but cold that day. If you remember, it was a hot, sunny June summer day going into July. So it was anything but cold. It was cool to see it.
That was like my first time seeing fake film snow, because I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, they're okay, this movie magic. Let's see how it looks in the film. I'm like, oh, once you have the color grading in and everything, yeah, this looks and feels like winter.
Yeah, you wouldn't know the difference, man. It doesn't even look like Pittsburgh. It looks like Gotham City, man. I was so impressed, man. I was like a little kid being there and just watching everything. So yeah, it was a blast.
that fake snow will get you every single time, because like I remember I was playing around with it a little bit we were testing it out for a movie around here, and I couldn't imagine that it's the same type
Yeah, I
of
was
fake
just say
snow,
this.
but like the
This was like
independent
paper.
scale of fake
This
snow,
was like paper.
we were able to pretend like it was actually snowing in Cleveland, which at the time it probably wouldn't have been a surprise that it actually was. But so when it comes to the actors that we bring on, we always like to ask this: what type of roles are you looking to play in the future, and what roles draw you into acting?
Oh man, there's so many. I love action. I love drama. I was just talking to a fellow actor the other day about it. He'd asked me the same question, man. He wanted to know what my top role was that I still wanted to play, and you never know what it is till you see it. But I got like 2 or 3 of them in my mind, and I want to do an old western. I want to do something like a Billy the Kid, or something along those lines, or just like the old Outlaws. It's just there's something about it that draws me to it. I've never got to do anything like that yet. I love film noir. I will not rest until I do a feature film noir, like quintessential film noir, say 1940s, the whole 9 yards. I really want to do that. The whole Private Dick, the whole 9 yards there. Just really, really drawn into those stories. I love the black and white. I think it's one of the most beautiful ways to tell cinema. And more action, man. I love action. I've gotten to do boxing films. I've gotten to do some martial arts type films, things like that. So I really dig that. I want to do that while I still have a little bit of youth on my side. There's a lot. There's so much, man. I really want to do more comedy too. So I hope I didn't draw that out too long for you. But there's so much that I've gotten to do a lot already. But there's always so much more you can do and want to do.
No,
And we always try and like share this video out to like as many film groups on Facebook as we possibly can. So like obviously, if there's anybody listening right now who'd want to cast James, we'll obviously have contact information for you in the description. Now, if you look down on your IMDb, you see directing and writing. Has that always been something that you wanted to do as an actor? And tell us a little about your acting and directing and writing experience.
Yeah, well, the writing thing has been a long time, man. I actually started writing before I ever did a day of acting in my life. I used to write short stories as a kid all the time. I enjoyed it in school. So I've always wanted to do that. I just got away from it for a long time. But I found that once I started creating our own films, the best way to do that was to start writing stories. And sometimes the best stories you come up with are based on your own real life experience.
That's right.
So, and I did a film a few years ago when I first got back into writing. It was called Sandman, a boxing film, Morris, and it was a short film, but it took off, did well in Vegas, Japan. We won some awards, but it was based off some of my own real life experiences. And I had gone through some things like the guy had fallen in the union and going to politics and corruption, and I had been in the ring and had been forced to go back to that ring. I was an amateur fighter. I wasn't a pro fighter, but we used that as a catapult for us, man, as a catalyst, and it was really cool. As far as directing, I actually never really saw myself doing that when I was younger. I kind of got forced into these situations and grew a love for them anyway. So, we had lost writers along the way because people move up and move along in the industry. So I started writing. We lost a couple directors, a couple guys didn't want to be in the industry no more, or a guy moved to LA here, a guy moved to New York there. So I just found myself in the position of taking on the task of directing. The first couple of years I wouldn't have considered myself a director, but now I think I have enough under my belt that I'm very comfortable in that capacity.
Go ahead, Nick.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's weird how you never consider those situations until you've been put into them, and then that pressure just kind of like, I actually kind of enjoy this. Let's ride with this and see where this goes.
Yeah, some of the best things happen by accident. I mean, accident on purpose, right?
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I know that Matt and I have fallen into plenty of situations when it comes to just surefire luck bringing us how we're doing this podcast and how we can bring on talent from the Pittsburgh area while we're still here in Cleveland. We have our different co-hosts from different states and such like that.
Oklahoma, Indiana.
Yes.
So has feature film directing and writing ever become an idea?
For feature film, yeah, the film I'm working on right now is called Paranoid. It's a paranormal film. I just finished 2 of our bigger scenes last night. We're probably 2 scenes away from making this thing airtight. I'm one of the 5 lead actors in it, and I'm also the co-director. My friend of mine, Brian, and I are co-directing together. And so, yeah, it's the first feature film that I've actually got to direct. I'm co-directing with a friend, and we're having a blast. And so hopefully we'll be able to show that to everybody this time next year. That's the goal.
Good, definitely, absolutely. We'd obviously love to have you on to hear more about it. So, how did that project come about? And I
It was kind of along the lines of your question. I wanted to do something that I hadn't done before, and so I wanted to do a paranormal film. I love the horror genre. I've gotten to do some fun stuff in it, but I haven't really got to tap into the paranormal yet. And so, a friend of mine, Caitlin Rush, is a fantastic writer. She's a published author, book all over the place. I talked with her. I said, I got this idea. I want to do a paranormal type film where we're investigating this old bank, this mansion, and things kind of just hit the fan when we get there. We're kind of I pitched her the idea that we were a very well-known group of paranormal investigators, but we aren't always on the up and up with the viewers. We kind of like make things happen, deceive them a little bit. But then we find ourselves in a position to where things start happening to us for real. Now we're like, oh shit, what do we do? And so she come up with a great story. There's a very big twist in the end that I can't give up on the air here, but it was something that her and I had talked about, and I got to conceptualize with her, and she put it to writing, man, and we took off from there. And we started working on it last spring, and we were hoping to be done last May, and COVID kicked in, so we were relegated to filming on Saturdays now, and we should be done here anytime now.
That's amazing. That's always great to hear. Creative people getting out of their comfort zone necessarily. Obviously, you had said that directing wasn't necessarily even something that you were thinking about doing, and now you're directing a feature-length film. So we do have a question from Maddie Leach. She says, James, are there any places super unique to Pittsburgh where you've been able to film?
Yeah, quite a few. I've gotten to film all over North Shore. I've filmed at Heinz Field. I've been able to film in and around the old Civic Arena, which is was Mellon Arena before they tore it down. I'm trying to think of what else it would be a really big standout spot. We actually, some very historic places. When we did Sandman, the boxing ring that we used that actually used to be used for the professional fights in the 1950s with some of the pro fighters that come in. They had taken that ring and put it into a ring in Sharpsburg, and so we had fought there. Bruno Sammartino used to wrestle on it, so that was a very historic thing for us to be able to climb into that ring and display that on our film. It was 2017 at the time when we did it. But, there's a lot of great places. Trying to think of another one. Where else did we film? We filmed over by the Muriel Lemieux statue. So many cool spots.
For me, and this is as someone who's been to Pittsburgh, that tunnel that they used in Perks of Being a Wallflower is just gorgeous in person.
The Fort Pitt Tunnel, yeah.
Yes.
Every time you drive through it, I think of that. Yeah, because it just as soon as you break in, you see the entire city.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful. And I filmed right around there too. To answer your question, right overlooking North Side and North Shore, man, on the river there, and it was beautiful. The Strip District, everybody knows the Strip District in Pittsburgh. We filmed Checkmate, that's on Amazon Prime. You see a lot of the Strip District, a lot of downtown Pittsburgh. Everywhere in Pittsburgh is just is a beautiful spot in its own right. So we're really fortunate to have the places we do.
And is it, Cleveland, obviously they bring projects in here and then they make it into other cities and such. How is the market when it comes to bigger feature films coming through and such?
It's it's a competitive market, right? It's pretty good, actually. It's grown every year since 2012, 2013, I'll bet right now. But except where obviously we got the hiccup with COVID. But yeah, we're averaging maybe 2 feature films a year and a television series or 2 every year with Netflix or CBS All Access. I worked on $1 a couple of years ago. That was here. Nice. It seems like every year there's a new show coming on. Netflix is really, really finding a love for Pittsburgh too, I see.
I mean, I know us here in Cleveland have that that Noah Baumbach film that's about to start shooting here in the next couple weeks for Netflix, and I'm really excited about that.
Oh, really? Yeah. Very cool.
It's weird just being up in. and this is something like perfect example. One of the last really big films we had shoot here was Fast and Furious 8.
Right.
And we doubled as New York. It's weird when it's like, yeah, they're in Cleveland, and people are like, oh, and people who don't know anybody are like, oh yeah, this is New York, and you're sitting there in the audience like, no, that's this, that's this, that's this. I know exactly where this is.
Yeah, you nitpick, right? Because you know it. But it's funny you say that. But when we did The Dark Knight Rises, and I filmed in Cleveland on many occasions, the thing about Cleveland and Pittsburgh is we there's parts of our cities that look like quintessential New York City in like the 1950s.
Yes.
And I think that they can sell that in Hollywood really well and for a better price.
Yeah, and I think what some people forget is back in like the 40s and 50s, both Pittsburgh and Cleveland, business-wise, were compared to New York at times.
Correct.
So it's weird to think that now, in terms of markets, both cities are mid-markets, lower markets, smaller markets. But if you're someone who's from here, you don't feel that way.
No, because you know the roots. We are just labor-driven people, man. That's from day one. That's what our cities have been. We've been the steel mills and the powerhouses, and we were what made America work in New York, from us all the way up to New York.
Exactly.
So as we are out of Cleveland, and a lot of the people that we end up, getting viewer-wise are from the area. If you want to tell us, how was your experience and what type of projects have you done in this area?
Let's see. I did the first thing I did in Cleveland was a 24-hour film fest, which was one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life as an actor. Just to complete a 24-hour film is a very tough feat. I worked on White Boy Rick a few years ago, the Matthew McConaughey film. And I had met a lot of the Cleveland actors through that, and we had a great time. And it was only on that set for a day, but it was a great time. I had a blast with it. The Murders of Brandywine Theater I come up for. That was an independent film in Cleveland, and I want to say it was around 2014-ish, 2013. 2013, I think it was. And that one did really well. That was created by a group of Cleveland filmmakers, and I believe it's probably on Amazon Prime now. A lot of professional wrestlers. They had like Diamond Dallas Page and Dustin Rhodes were in it.
You're speaking this kid's language.
I was gonna say, there's been so many wrestling references throughout this entire thing, and I'm just over here like, yes, another wrestling fan over here.
Oh, I'm diehard, man. Love professional wrestling. I used to be affiliated with a wrestling podcast too, so we've gotten to talk to some of the greats, man. It's a pastime of mine. It's a childhood love of mine, and I still hold it today.
We'll be in talk. We have a wrestling show on this
right
channel. But I could only imagine that watching wrestling has added to your acting regimen, because a lot of what people forget about wrestling is that there are a lot of really good talents within it. I mean, a lot of them are transcending into the mainstream film and TV motto right now.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I talk with a lot of independent wrestlers. We bounce ideas off each other, and they want to get into the acting world, and I love getting my ear to the wind and seeing what things are going on with them. And I think it's really easy for them to transcend, because they are, in a way, doing a lot of acting themselves. Just a more physical variation than we do sometimes,
Right. Definitely. Well, James, it's been a blast.
Well, real quick, does the Pittsburgh Hotlist shirt have to do with the acting scene out there?
You know what it did? Yeah, it's a group of filmmakers out of Pittsburgh. Daniel and Nate Johnson have started the company. It started out as an online magazine. They now have a podcast show, but they highlight the people in Pittsburgh that they feel are just really making a ton of noise right now. And I was very fortunate to be on that list about a month or so ago. Then I went on their podcast the other day too. And they're making a lot of noise, and these are really, really great guys that are positive, and they're pushing people in a positive light and showing them in a good way. Instead of tearing people down as people in the business can, these guys are stepping in and going, hey, you know what? Take a look at what they're doing, because they're doing some good stuff, and they showcase people for what their hard work and efforts are,
Precisely. I totally get that. Trust me.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we do this show, is because there's so many incredible people out there who are doing incredible things, and not all of them necessarily can get that voice out there.
Right.
To hear about these projects, like Sandman and such, definitely entice at least me as a viewer who obviously doing my research and checked out certain things with it, would definitely make me want to watch this or that project. So it's just like being able to just get those projects out there and kind of just get voices to them is always wonderful because there's so many people who are creating out there, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. And you just want to get your message out, and it's so hard to do. And once you finally get it out there that first time, people start to listen more and more, and they want to see more of what you have to say.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Well, James, how can our viewers reach out to you and check out your social media and kind of follow everything that you've been doing?
Yeah, I've changed all my social media over the past year to Real James Quinn. So it's REAL James Quinn, and that's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm on Twitter all the time. I frequent Instagram a good bit too. But yeah, if you want to reach out on Twitter, tweet me. I do a lot of tweeting. I'll tweet you back or send me a private message. As long as it's respectful, I'm happy to interact with everyone.
All right.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for joining us for today. It's so interesting to get a perspective from all the different film markets when it comes down to it, and hearing all the similarities between the Cleveland film market and the Pittsburgh film market has it can open up a door between the two markets to be able to work together, and I think that is such a fantastic thing. And
100%.
thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really
Hey guys, thanks for having me, man. It's been a blast. I appreciate it.
No problem, sir. No problem.
So if you want to follow us, What Real Entertainment, if you want to follow James, Real James Quinn on Twitter and Instagram.
On Facebook and YouTube.
But thank you so much for watching, everybody. And thank you so much, Maddie, for reaching out and asking questions. We will be here next week, and we have all of our shows throughout the week that Matt usually plugs at the end.
Which is right now. Tomorrow we have Spin from the Real, where we'll be talking the latest and greatest in Schmodown news from the Robert Parker and Brandon Hanna match to the live event we had happen the other night between Alex Damon, Mike Kalinowski, Video Drew, and Marisol McKee. And yeah, really excited for that. Thursday, we have Really Scared, as always. Friday, if it's live this week, Wrestle Real with Nick and Chris. And then there might be a special post-draft edition of Dog Check at some point this week. But also this week, on Tuesday, for May the 4th, you'll have myself and Toby Barkwell coming back for Saber Reels to talk about the Bad Batch and maybe bring on a guest or two. So,
but with that, my name is Nick. This is Matt. Our guest today was James Quinn. Thank you so much again for joining us today. And this has been another Who Are They Real Talk.